met in person for like about a month after we started talking. We met in person and the date went great.
Friends, it's me, Meerab, and I welcome you to Starspill USA, not just the home of truth, but the arena where every carefully constructed lie comes to die. This is where polished smiles are stripped away, where the glittering facade of family unity crumbles to dust under the unforgiving weight of reality. And today, we are not just spectators. We are witnesses to a public unraveling years in the making. The courthouse looms ahead, its stone walls weathered yet imposing, casting long shadows across the pavement. It doesn't just sit there. It waits like an ancient beast that has swallowed countless secrets and is now ready to devour a few more. The steps leading up are swarmed with people, some holding cameras, some clutching notebooks, others gripping coffee cups, like lifelines. Their eyes are sharp, hungry, searching for that one golden moment they can capture. The one image or quote that will set the sister wives' gossip mill ablaze before the day is done. As I push through the heavy glass doors, the air changes. It's cooler inside, but no less suffocating. The echo of footsteps on polished marble bounces off the high ceiling, mixing with the faint scent of varnish and freshly sharpened pencils. Security officers stand at attention, scanning the incoming tide of bodies with that practiced mix of boredom and suspicion. Metal detectors beep occasionally, each sound pulling a few heads in its direction before attention swings back to the real show. The courtroom where Kody Brown will stand. Kody Brown, once the golden-haired, self-assured patriarch who carried himself like a man born to lead, is here not as the confident centerpiece of a polygamous empire, but as a defendant. His presence is not one of command, but of containment. There's a stiffness in his shoulders, as though the weight of the world presses down on them. And yet his chin lifts every now and then in a reflex of old arrogance, like a man who still thinks he might talk his way out of the gallows. His suit is perfectly tailored, navy with a faint sheen under the courtroom lights, but it cannot hide the restless movement of his hands, the tightening of his jaw, or the flicker in his eyes that darts from face to face like a trapped bird seeking a way out. Kody Brown enters moments later, not with drama, but with an unshakable calm that turns heads without needing to demand it. She wears a simple fitted jacket, the color of storm clouds, and her hair is brushed into soft waves that catch the light just enough to draw the eye. But it isn't her clothes that silence whispers. It's her presence. She walks as though every step is a statement, her spine straight, her gaze forward, and her lips set in the faintest curve of defiance. There is no smugness, no gloating, just the steady, quiet certainty of a woman who has survived enough storms to know when the wind is finally blowing in her favor. Janelle follows, her steps measured, her face unreadable. Where Kody's presence cuts like a blade, Janelle settles like a wall, immovable, steady, and impossible to shake. Her arms fold loosely over her chest as she takes her seat beside Kody, not as a gesture of defense, but as one of protection. It says without words, we stand together. The benches creak under the weight of the gathered onlookers. Some faces I recognize from the background of paparazzi shots. Others are strangers who have somehow found their way into this chamber of consequence. Every head leans forward ever so slightly, as though afraid that one careless blink might cause them to miss the moment when everything tilts. Even the journalists, hardened professionals who have sat through more trials than they can count, seem to sense that this is different. Pens hover over notepads, the faint scratch of ink on paper punctuated by the occasional click of a recording device being activated. The room itself is a paradox, grand and suffocating. The high ceilings and carved wooden panels suggest dignity and gravitas, while the heavy air presses down, thick with anticipation. The judge's bench looms at the far end, polished to a dull gleam, its surface reflecting just enough of the overhead lights to catch the eye. The American flag stands to one side, unmoving, as though even it has chosen to hold its breath. Then comes the first sound that shatters the heavy stillness, the snap of a legal folder being opened. It is a small noise, yet in this charged silence, it rings like a gunshot. Heads twitch towards it. Somewhere, a pen clicks, its metallic tick reverberating through the room. Above, the fluorescent lights hum faintly. It's an almost imperceptible reminder that the world outside still exists, though right now feels as though the only reality that matters is contained within these four walls. And, oh, the world outside. It hasn't paused for a second. Beyond the thick wooden doors, a frenzy is in motion. Cameras fire in staccato bursts, their flashes painting the gray morning with sudden bursts of white. Reporters speak urgently into microphones, their voices climbing over each other in a desperate race to be the first to spill whatever crumbs they've managed to gather. Fans of the Sister Wives saga huddle together, phones in hand, streaming. Every moment live, their comment sections flooding with speculation, accusations, and outrage. This is not a simple legal proceeding. This is a reckoning, a culmination of years of whispered betrayals, bruised egos, and fractured loyalties. For the Browns, this is the day where old wounds will be reopened and old alliances tested. For Kody Brown, this is the moment where his charm, once enough to smooth over any crack, may prove powerless against the tide now crashing over him. And as I take my seat, my pulse thrums in my ears, because I know we haven't even begun.
The kids talk to him about Robin, or I talk to him, it's like he just doesn't want to go there. That's his sacred cow. She's perfect.
Kody Brown arrived first. The black suit he wore was sharp, tailored, and unyielding. Stark contrast to the laid-back, self-assured persona the public had grown used to seeing on their television screens. Today, there was no warm grin, no casual wave, no theatrical glance for the cameras. His face was tight, his jawline etched with tension, his eyes locked straight ahead. If he heard the barrage of reporters calling his name, he gave no sign, no nod, no smirk, just the stiff gait of a man walking into enemy territory. Minutes later, Christine emerged from a sleek black SUV, her attorney shadowing her closely. She wore a deep green jacket, understated, deliberate, the kind of shade that draws the eye without screaming for attention. Her hair was pulled neatly back, every strand in place, her face composed in a serenity that, to those who knew her story, felt almost dangerous. This was the Christine who had long since mastered the art of concealing hurt behind a mask of calm control, a woman who could walk into a battlefield without letting the tremor of fear show. Janelle's arrival went almost unnoticed. She slipped in through a side door, avoiding the crush of photographers entirely. No flashes, no shouts, just the quiet confidence of someone who didn't need the circus. Mere minutes later, Mary appeared, head down, lips pressed into a thin, unforgiving line. She neither slowed nor looked up. Only one wife was missing from this morning's public parade, Robin. She would arrive later, quietly sliding into the courtroom to take her seat near Kody. Her proximity alone enough to stoke the simmering resentment in the room. Inside, the mood was grave, the air thick with anticipation. Kody took his place at the sleek, polished table alongside his lawyer, a wiry, fast-talking strategist with a reputation for dismantling witnesses one cutting question at a time. His legal pad was already littered with aggressive scribbles before the judge had even entered. Across the aisle sat three separate legal teams, each representing one of Kody's estranged wives. The very seating arrangement was an unsubtle declaration. The women were no longer a united front against the world. They weren't one against him, they were three, each armed with their own grievances, their own battle plans. The judge presiding over this spectacle was a silver-haired woman with icy, blade-like eyes that missed nothing. She was known for her patience, but equally famous for slicing through theatrics when they wasted her time. One glance at her tightened lips suggested she already suspected she'd need both skills in abundance today. Kody's lawyer opened first. His voice was smooth, almost hypnotic. "This case, Your Honor, is not about heartbreak. It is about fairness. 'Tis about property, assets, and the legal rights of a man who has devoted decades to supporting a large and complicated family. In carefully measured tones, he cast Kody as the provider, the architect of a sprawling family empire. The man who bore the financial weight of multiple households. The wives, he suggested, had thrived under that system and now sought far more than their fair share. Christine's attorney rose next, her voice a clean-cutting contrast. This case, Your Honor, is about a woman who gave her youth, her energy, and her entire adult life to a marriage that shortchanged her. My client didn't just contribute financially, she built homes. She raised children. She kept the family machine running, while Mr. Brown made decisions that left her with nothing. Janelle's lawyer wasted no time. My client supported herself and her children for years, while family money was funneled disproportionately into one home, Robin's home. Mary's lawyer took a more restrained approach, but the sting in his words was no less potent. Mary Brown was left emotionally and financially sidelined, despite decades of commitment to this family. She deserves restitution. The first witness was an accountant who had worked closely with the Browns. His task to unravel the tangled web of their finances. On the courtroom monitors, spreadsheets flickered, bank accounts, property deeds, joint ventures, business loans, and individual expenses sprawled across the screens in dizzying detail. The funds came from multiple sources: TV contracts, book royalties, public speaking engagements. Officially, the money was pooled and shared. But under cross-examination, the truth emerged. The sharing had not been even. Large transfers had moved into Robin's personal accounts. Loans had been taken in her name, then repaid with family funds. Kody's lawyer insisted this was strategic. Robin, after all, was the legal wife. It made sense, he claimed, for paperwork to be in her name, but Christine's lawyer pounced. So you're saying my client's years of work and earnings were used to build assets she had no legal claim to? The accountant hesitated. That would appear to be correct. When Kody took the stand, the air seemed to shift. The gallery stilled as though the entire room was holding its breath. At first, his voice was steady, his narrative painting himself as a man who had done the impossible, kept an enormous, unconventional family afloat through sheer will and sacrifice. But Christine's attorney tore through that facade with precision. Years of texts, emails, and recorded conversations were displayed like weapons. In one message, he dismissed Christine's request for more time together, telling her to stop being dramatic. In another, he justified transferring more funds into Robin's home as practical. Mary's lawyer read aloud a particularly brutal text from Kody. "We're not in a relationship anymore, and we never will be." The words seemed to hang in the air, heavy and unshakable. As questioning continued, Kody's composure cracked. His tone sharpened, his answers grew clipped. And then Christine took the stand. Her voice was calm but laced with an ache that bled through despite her control. She spoke of years of invisibility, of peace kept at the cost of her own worth. "I didn't want to leave," she told the judge quietly, "but I couldn't teach my children that it's acceptable to stay in a marriage where you are not valued." Her cross-examination was pointed. Kody's lawyer suggested she had lived off the family's wealth for years, Christine countered. With receipts, groceries bought from her own pocket, trips she had funded, repairs she had paid for without touching shared accounts. Janelle's testimony was cool, almost businesslike, but every word was a blade. She detailed how she had funded her own household, even loaning Kody money that was never repaid. Mary's testimony was quieter still, but it carried the deepest cut. She spoke of emotional exile, of humiliation endured publicly, and of being treated as an outsider in the family she had helped to build. By late afternoon, the tension was electric. Every objection had teeth. The judge had called for order more than once. And then came the moment that would dominate headlines for days. Kody snapped. In the middle of a heated argument about the Coyote Pass property, he slammed his palm against the table. I built this family and you all turned your backs on me. The judge's gavel came down like a gunshot. Mr. Brown, calm yourself, or you will be escorted out. Silence. Kody leaned back, breathing hard, jaw tight. When court recessed, the Browns exited separately. Kody moved quickly. Robin at his side, Christine, Janelle, and Mary each departed, flanked by their lawyers. Outside, the press swarmed, microphones stretched out like weapons, but none of them offered a statement. They didn't need to. The story was already in motion. Social media pulsed with clips. Headlines screamed of hidden finances and explosive testimony. And this was only day one. Weeks later, the trial's atmosphere had changed. The tension of the first days had hardened into something heavier, denser. By the third week, everyone knew the next session would be pivotal. Even the usual pre-court murmurs were subdued, replaced by a watchful quiet, as if the room itself anticipated an irreversible turning point. That day's focus was custody, not of children, but of influence. Custody of trust, of bonds, of the right to guide the younger members of the family. And the accusation that those bonds had been deliberately damaged. The Brown children were scattered, some adults forging lives of their own, others still under Robin's roof, sheltered from daily chaos, but not from the shadow it cast. Lawyers argued over visitation schedules, phone calls, holidays, as if affection could be reduced to a court timetable. But everyone in that room knew it wasn't about logistics. It was about legacy. When the dust settled, who would the children believe? Who would they stand beside? And whose version of the family story would survive?
With my sister, yeah. We have to be in New Jersey on a Monday, and then she'll get the surgery Wednesday or Thursday. And
Christine sat stiff in her chair, fingers clenched so tightly in her lap, her knuckles turned white. Beside her, Janelle's eyes drifted blankly across the room, seeing nothing. Mary's head was bowed, her pen tapping against her notebook. From them, Kody leaned forward, arms folded, his lawyer murmuring in his ear. He nodded sharply now and then, like ticking boxes in his head. The first witness, a family therapist who had worked with several of the Brown children, spoke in calm, measured tones, but the sadness beneath was unmistakable. She explained how the children felt torn between loyalty to one parent and resentment toward another, forced to choose sides just to survive emotionally. Kody's attorney pressed her for bias, but she didn't flinch. "I'm not here to take sides," she said. "The damage from broken communication, public fights, and emotional neglect is already deep. Some bonds may never heal." Then came the moment that froze the room. Christine's attorney rose. "Your Honor, we'd like to submit a letter from the late Robert Garrison Brown." The name alone brought silence. Garrison's death, months earlier, still hung heavy over everyone. The judge allowed it to be read aloud. The attorney unfolded the paper carefully and began. "Dad, I don't know how to talk to you anymore. Feels like Robin's house is your real home and the rest of us are just background. I miss the dad who laughed with us. Now, when I see you, it's about money or what I've done wrong. I need you to fight for me the way you fight for everyone else. If you can't, then I suppose I'll have to learn how to live without it." By the final words, the air was thick. Christine's tears ran freely. Janelle's lips pressed tight. Mary's shoulders trembled. Kody's jaw was rigid, but his eyes shone red. Christine's attorney didn't waste the moment. "This is not about money," she said. "It's about people, about trust. Once it's gone, no paper can bring it back." When Kody spoke, his voice was rough. "I loved my son. That letter hurts, but it doesn't tell the whole story. I was trying to keep the family together." Pressed again, he admitted softly, perhaps he did feel abandoned. "But I never stopped trying." The rest of the day blurred into more testimony. Strained holidays, missed birthdays, slammed doors. By day's end, the Browns left as they always had, apart. But Kody's usual fast stride was gone. He walked slowly, head lowered, Robin close behind. That night, Garrison's letter went viral. Millions watched, thousands argued, some defending Kody, others condemning him. But one truth was clear. The heart of this case wasn't land or money. It was wounds that no ruling could heal. Weeks later, the final day came. Judge Patricia Hall ruled Coyote Pass be sold. The proceeds split evenly. Christine would receive $450,000. Janelle, $350,000. Mary, $150,000. Custody of the younger children stayed with Robin. Though the judge urged contact with Christine and Janelle, before closing, she spoke of Garrison's letter. Though not a legal matter, it is a reminder of the value of emotional presence. Honor his memory by